First contact and desperate times. The Meridians had always considered themselves fortunate. Their civilization had flourished for millennia in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy, far from the tumultuous political centers where empires rose and fell. They had mastered fusion technology, developed efficient faster-than-light travel, and built magnificent cities that stretched across 3 worlds. Their society valued knowledge, art, and peaceful exploration above all else. But peace, as they would learn, was a luxury they could no longer afford. The swarm arrived without warning. Massive biomechanical ships emerged from the darkness between stars, their hulls covered in living metal that adapted to any weapon used against them. The Meridian Defense Fleet, more ceremonial than practical, was obliterated within hours. Their first colony world fell within days, its surface transformed into breeding grounds for more swarm ships. Supreme Council leader Naravel stood at the observation deck of the last remaining Meridian sanctuary ship, watching as reports streamed in from their quantum networks. Their second colony had just fallen, and their homeworld's orbital defenses were failing. The swarm's technological superiority was absolute. Their weapons could pierce any shield, their armor could regenerate from any damage, and their numbers seemed endless. Supreme Leader, her aide, Karen, approached with a holographic display. "We've detected something unusual, a civilization we hadn't noticed before." Nara turned, her luminescent eyes narrowing. "Explain." "They're in a spiral arm we previously dismissed as too primitive for spacefaring life. They call themselves humans." Karen projected a series of images, a blue-green world, cities that still relied on fossil fuels, spacecraft that used chemical propulsion. "They've barely reached their own moon." "Then they're useless to us." Nara began to turn away, but Karen continued. "Supreme Leader, please look at their history." The hologram shifted to show various human conflicts, innovations, and adaptations. They've survived multiple extinction-level events. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented. And, Karen hesitated, they've done something we thought impossible. They've united their entire species under a single cause when faced with external threats. Nara studied the images more carefully now. The humans were physically unimpressive. No natural armor, no enhanced senses, no biological advantages whatsoever. But there was something in their eyes, in the way they fought, that gave her pause. Where Meridians saw defeat and accepted it, humans seemed to fight harder. Where Meridians sought elegant solutions, humans found brutal efficiency. "They're savages," one of her advisors scoffed. "Look at their weapons, their wars, their primitive technology." "No," Nara whispered, a plan forming in her mind. "They're survivors. And right now, we need survivors more than we need sophistication." She straightened, her decision made. "Prepare a quantum transmission to Earth. We're going to do something unprecedented. We're going to ask primitives for help." The message was composed carefully, translated into all major human languages. It contained technical specifications of swarm ships, footage of their attacks, and a desperate plea for assistance. The Meridians included coordinates for a rendezvous point and promised to share their technology in exchange for help. As the message was sent across the vast distance of space, Nara received word that the swarm had breached their homeworld's outer defenses. They had perhaps 2 weeks before total collapse. "Do you really think they'll help?" Karen asked, watching the quantum transmission indicators. "I don't know," Nara admitted. "But I studied their history now. These humans, they have something we lost long ago. The ability to face impossible odds and somehow prevail. They don't accept defeat. They don't surrender. They adapt, they improvise, and they overcome." She turned to face her aide, her expression grim but determined. "We've spent millennia looking down on younger races, thinking our technological superiority made us better. But the swarm taught us that technology alone isn't enough. We need something more. We need the human spirit." The message raced across space, carrying with it the hopes of an entire civilization. On Earth, in a deep space monitoring station in the Australian outback, a computer began to beep. The human response. General Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her holographic presentation showing the Meridian distress signal in vivid detail. The council chamber was silent as footage of the swarm's devastating attacks played across the massive screens. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen's voice cut through the silence. What you're seeing is not a hoax. We've verified the quantum signatures. This is real, and these people need our help. With all due respect, General, the Russian representative leaned forward. These Meridians clearly possess technology far beyond ours. What could we possibly offer them? Chen's lips curved into a slight smile. That's exactly our advantage, Counselor. For the past 50 years, we've been preparing for a scenario exactly like this. She gestured, and a holographic display changed, showing massive underground facilities scattered across Earth. Project Phoenix. While we've maintained the appearance of a relatively primitive spacefaring race, we've been developing technologies that even the Meridians haven't conceived of. The chamber erupted in murmurs as classified images appeared. Ships unlike anything publicly known, weapons that defied conventional physics, and defense systems that could reshape reality itself. The Meridians developed their technology along predictable, logical lines, Chen continued. But we humans, we took inspiration from our fiction, our dreams, our nightmares. We built things that shouldn't work but do. We created weapons that break the rules the enemy thinks everyone follows. Admiral James Okonjo, leader of the African Space Command, stood up. You're suggesting we reveal everything. The quantum phase ships, the consciousness transfer systems, the probability engines. I'm suggesting we do what humans do best, surprise everyone. Chen's expression hardened. The swarm thinks they're invincible because they can adapt to any weapon used against them, but they've never faced human ingenuity. The council deliberated for hours, but in the end, the vote was unanimous. Earth would help. Within days, hidden facilities around the world sprung to life. Mountains opened to reveal massive shipyards. Orbital platforms shed their civilian disguises, revealing weapon systems that could tear holes in space itself. The full might of human military technology, hidden for half a century, was finally unveiled. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Earth's first official quantum phase dreadnought. Her crew, trained in secret for years, worked with practiced efficiency as the ship prepared for its first real combat deployment. All ships report ready, Captain, her XO announced. The fleet is assembled. Maya looked at the tactical display. 500 ships, each carrying technology that would seem like magic to most of the galaxy. Weapons developed by thinking so far outside the box that there wasn't a box anymore. Defenses based on principles that the enemy wouldn't even think to counter. Send our response to the Meridians, she ordered. Tell them help is coming. And send a message to the swarm as well. What message, Captain? Maya's eyes gleamed with determination. Just 4 words. You don't know us. The Earth fleet departed in a massive quantum jump, leaving their solar system for the first time in human history. They weren't the largest fleet in the galaxy. They weren't the most advanced by conventional standards. But they carried with them humanity's greatest weapons, creativity, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. As they traveled through quantum space, Maya thought about the swarm, about their biological technology that adapted to any threat. They were about to learn that there were some things you couldn't adapt to. Human determination, human ingenuity, and most importantly, humanity's talent for achieving the impossible. The fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of Meridian territory, sensors immediately detecting the massive swarm fleet besieging the Meridian homeworld. Maya smiled as she gave the order that would announce humanity's arrival to the galaxy. Battle stations. Let's show them what Earth can do. Battle for the stars. The swarm detected the human fleet just moments before the first attack. Their biomechanical ships turned, their living metal surfaces rippling as they prepared to adapt to whatever primitive weapons these newcomers might possess. They had faced countless civilizations before, and each time, their ability to evolve had proven invincible. They weren't ready for what happened next. The UES Prometheus fired its first shot, not a conventional weapon, but a probability engine. The quantum device didn't damage the swarm ships. Instead, it rewrote the probability of their existence in that particular space-time location. 3 massive swarm vessels simply ceased to exist, their matter scattered across 1,000 possible realities. Their adaptive systems can't counter what they can't detect. Captain Rodriguez announced as her fleet engaged. Launch the phase fighters. Squadrons of small craft emerged from Earth's ships, using quantum phase technology to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The swarm's weapons passed harmlessly through fighters that were only partially present in their reality. The Meridian defenders watched in stunned silence as humanity's primitive fleet tore into the swarm's forces. Where the swarm expected lasers, they found weapons that distorted space itself. Where they anticipated missiles, they encountered autonomous AI constructs that invaded their biomechanical systems. Supreme Leader Naravel could hardly believe her eyes. How are they doing this? On the Prometheus, Maya allowed herself a grim smile as another group of swarm ships vanished under the probability assault. Deploy the consciousness disruptors, she ordered. Let's see how well their hive mind works when we scramble the signal. The disruptors activated, sending waves of quantum-entangled interference across the battlefield. The swarm ships, dependent on their collective consciousness, began to move erratically. Their perfect coordination faltered. They're adapting. Maya's tactical officer warned. Their biomechanical systems are trying to compensate. Perfect, Maya replied. Exactly as planned. Execute Operation Checkmate. The human fleet suddenly shifted formation, creating what appeared to be a vulnerable gap in their lines. The swarm, even in their confused state, took the bait. Their largest ships surged forward, weapons charging. Now, the trap was sprung. Hidden quantum mines activated, creating localized bubbles of altered spacetime. The swarm ships found themselves fighting in zones where the laws of physics had been selectively rewritten. Their adaptive capabilities, bound by the rules of normal space, became useless. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing not just weapons, but entirely new ways of thinking about warfare. They didn't try to overcome the swarm's advantages. They simply changed the rules of the game. As the last swarm ships retreated in disarray, Maya received a transmission from the Meridian Command Center. How? Nara's voice was filled with awe. Your species, you were supposed to be primitives. Maya laughed softly. We learned long ago that the best advantage is the one your enemy doesn't know you have. We let the galaxy think we were barely spacefaring while we prepared for exactly this kind of threat. But your technology, it defies all known scientific principles. That's because we stopped letting principles define what was possible. We dreamed it, so we built it. Maya checked her tactical display. And this was just our first wave. Wait until you see what else we brought. The swarm was retreating, but everyone knew they would return. They would try to adapt to humanity's weapons, to find countermeasures against their impossible technology. But they would learn what so many others had learned before. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to imagine the impossible, and then make it real. The turning point. 3 months into the war, the swarm revealed their desperation. Their remaining ships converged on a single point in space, merging into something unprecedented. A living battle station the size of a small moon. Its surface writhed with adaptive armor, each segment learning and evolving from every engagement. They're combining their consciousness, reported Dr. Emma Chung, Earth's leading expert on swarm biology. Every defeat, every adaptation, every lesson. They're pooling it all into one entity. The massive station hung in space like a dark star, its surface rippling with malevolent energy. Previous human tactics were now useless. The swarm had adapted to probability engines, phase technology, and consciousness disruption. They were learning, evolving, becoming something far more dangerous. Captain Rodriguez stood on the Prometheus's bridge, studying the monstrosity. "They think they've figured us out," she said quietly. "They think they know all our tricks." "Haven't they?" asked her XO. "They've adapted to everything we've thrown at them." Maya smiled. "They've adapted to our technology, but they still don't understand what makes humans different." She opened a channel to the combined Earth Meridian fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez. Execute Protocol Omega." Across the fleet, crews began implementing humanity's contingency plan, something so audacious that even their Meridian allies thought it was insane. Every ship's quantum core began to pulse in perfect synchronization, creating a cascade of reality distortions. "They can adapt to our weapons," Maya explained to the watching Meridian commanders. "But can they adapt to us, changing the fundamental nature of space-time itself?" The human fleet began moving in impossible patterns, their synchronized quantum cores literally rewriting the local laws of physics. Space itself began to fold and twist, creating a maze of altered realities around the swarm station. But the swarm was ready. Their massive station began to pulse with energy, its adaptive systems working overtime to counter the reality distortions. For every rule humanity changed, the swarm found a way to exist within the new parameters. "It's working," Nara exclaimed from her command ship. "They're contained." Maya shook her head. "No, they're adapting too quickly. We need something more." She opened a private channel to her fellow captains. "It's time for the human factor. Volunteer ships, move to position." What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the sacrifice of stars. 12 human ships, their crews volunteering for what seemed like certain death, engaged their quantum cores at maximum power. They weren't trying to change reality. They were going to break it. For Earth and all free species, the battle cry echoed across the comm channels as the ships charged forward. The swarm station's defenses lashed out, but the human vessels pushed through, their hulls disintegrating under the assault. "Now," Maya ordered. The 12 ships detonated their quantum cores simultaneously. The explosion wasn't just physical, it was metaphysical. Reality itself cracked, creating a cascading failure in the fabric of space-time. The swarm station, caught in the reality fracture, found itself trying to adapt to the impossible. Existence itself was becoming undefined. Their adaptation protocols. Dr. Cheng's voice was filled with wonder. They're trying to adapt to non-existence. They're caught in a logical paradox. The massive station began to collapse in on itself, its adaptive systems trapped in an endless loop of trying to evolve to counter something that couldn't be countered. The swarm had finally encountered something they couldn't adapt to: human willingness to sacrifice everything to achieve the impossible. As the station imploded, Maya ordered rescue operations for any survivors from the volunteer ships. Against all odds, some had survived, protected by the very reality distortions they had created. Supreme Leader Nara approached Maya after the battle. "We thought we were doomed," she said softly. "We thought technology was everything. But your people, you showed us something different." Maya looked out at the debris field where the swarm station had been. "Technology is just a tool," she replied. "Humanity's real strength is our willingness to imagine the impossible and our determination to make it happen, no matter the cost." The battle was won, but more importantly, the galaxy had learned something crucial about its newest spacefaring race. Humans weren't just another species with powerful weapons. They were something far more dangerous. Dreamers who had the will to make their dreams reality. A new dawn. 1 year after the Battle of the Broken Reality, as historians now called it, the Meridian capital city gleamed under its twin suns. The reconstruction was nearly complete, but the changes went far deeper than mere buildings. The galaxy itself had been transformed. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the newly formed Galactic Concordat, Supreme Leader Naravel stood before representatives from 100 worlds. The chamber was packed with species from across the galaxy, all drawn by the same story, how a supposedly primitive race had defeated the undefeatable. "We thought we understood power," Nara began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "We measured it in technology, in the age of civilizations, in the sophistication of our sciences. We were wrong." The holographic displays showed scenes from the war, human ships performing the impossible, crews making sacrifices that defied logic, and victories that rewrote the rules of what was possible. The humans taught us that true power lies not in what you have, but in what you're willing to imagine and achieve. They showed us that the greatest technology is worthless without the spirit to use it in ways no one ever dreamed possible. Captain Maya Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, sat in the Earth delegation section, her new uniform displaying the combined insignia of Earth Fleet Command and the Galactic Concordat. Beside her, Dr. Emma Chang was already deep in discussion with a group of alien scientists, explaining how human theoretical physics had evolved by embracing the impossible. The swarm believed they were invincible because they could adapt to anything, Nara continued. But humanity showed us that true adaptation isn't just about responding to threats. It's about completely changing the nature of what's possible. The assembly watched as new footage played. Human engineers working alongside Meridian scientists, sharing technologies and methodologies that neither side would have conceived alone. The humans' wild imagination, combined with Meridian precision, had already produced breakthroughs that were reshaping their understanding of the universe. Today, we formalize what began as a desperate plea for help. Nara gestured, and the chamber's central hologram displayed the text of the Concordat Treaty. This isn't just an alliance. It's a commitment to embrace the human approach to the impossible. The treaty was revolutionary. It established not just military cooperation, but a complete sharing of knowledge and resources. More importantly, it committed every member species to maintaining their unique perspectives and approaches to problems. The galaxy had learned that true strength lay in diversity of thought. After the ceremony, Maya found herself looking out over the Meridian capital. The city's architecture now showed hints of human influence, impossible angles and designs that somehow worked, much like humanity's approach to physics. "Thinking about the cost?" Nara asked, joining her at the window. Maya nodded. "We lost good people. The volunteer ships, the battles before that." She paused. "But we gained something too, didn't we? More than you know." Nara gestured to the bustling city below. "Look there." A group of Meridian children was playing in a park, but they weren't engaged in traditional Meridian games. They were playing human games, games of imagination and possibility. One child pretended to bend reality while another acted out adapting to it, their play mimicking the strategies that had saved their civilization. "They're not just playing," Nara said softly. "They're learning to think like humans, to see possibilities where we saw only limits. Your species didn't just save us. You taught us how to dream." The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city. In orbit above, ships of all species moved in harmony. The new Concordat fleet, combining the best of all their technologies and philosophies. But at its heart was something uniquely human, the belief that the impossible was just something that hadn't been done yet. "What do you think the swarm would think if they could see this?" Maya wondered aloud. Nara laughed. "They wanted to adapt to everything they encountered. Instead, they made the galaxy adapt to something far more powerful, human imagination." As night fell on the Meridian capital, lights began to twinkle in the darkness, each one a testament to a truth the galaxy had learned. That sometimes the most primitive race could teach the most advanced civilizations the most important lesson of all, how to believe in the impossible. The age of limits was over. The age of human dreams had begun.